Palo Alto Networks is the cybersecurity vendor of choice for nearly 100,000 organizations worldwide, protecting hundreds of millions of people. This makes us a top target for cyber attacks. My name is Peter Havens, and I welcome you to join us in this Discovery series, where we will explore how Palo Alto Networks Security Operations Center is protecting our company and our people, and learn how we do it. And we're back with another episode of This Is How We Do It. Today, an exciting topic. We're going to be talking about data and data pipelining, which is really the foundation of everything we do. And we'll talk about later in this series around AI and threat hunting. Data is the lifeblood of security and detection engineering. And with me today, I have Isaac Kovski, who is a staff security engineer in our SOC. Isaac, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. And can you just tell us, you're responsible for all of the data engineering, data pipelining. What does that mean? What does your job entail?
Okay, so I have basically two parts to my job, which is basically the ingestion of the data and then the operation assurance, making sure that we continuously have that data and have it within a reasonable amount of time.
Okay.
In terms of what that generally entails, so the way the pipeline works is we have our collection of data from the variety of sources. Once we get that data in, we have to make sure that it's parsed and usable by the SOC, and then after that, we have a separate thing where we map them, all that data to what we call the XDM model, and that kind of normalizes the data so that when analysts want to check, they want to search data across multiple tables, they're able to do so just using that one model.
And what does XDM mean?
It's the Cortex Data Model.
Okay, gotcha. It's the Cortex Data Model.
Yeah.
So this is really, ingestion is more than just connecting pieces. It's about collection, it's about parsing.
Mapping, and then, of course, making sure that the data is coming in within a reasonable amount of time.
Okay.
And not falling somewhere along the pipeline. Yeah.
Right. And we're talking about a lot of data. I've heard numbers on the order of 50 to 75 terabytes a day that Palo Alto Networks is ingesting into XIM and the SOC. Maybe let's talk about what that data is. What is it comprised of? What are we actually collecting?
So we collect data in a lot of different formats and from a lot of different vendors, including our own. We have Pen OS that we're collecting, our firewall data, that's right. We have EDR data, that's XDR.
Coming from Cortex XDR, endpoint security data.
That's right. We have data that we're collecting from a variety of cloud platforms, Google, Amazon, Azure, Microsoft. We have data that we're collecting from SCMs, GitHub, GitLab. Those are some key data sources. We have Windows data, Active Directory data.
Identity-related data?
We have identity-related data. We have SSO.
Okay.
Sure. We have all those different types, and they're vital.
Okay. Interesting. You mentioned one that isn't something I expected, which is source code, like GitHub data.
Sure.
Talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah. So what we're collecting over there is audit logs, which is basically anytime a user accesses something in one of those products, that we should be aware of it to make sure that we don't have users that are not supposed to be accessing that data.
Right. Obviously, we're collecting a lot of data. We're pretty mature in this process. If maybe somebody's watching this series and they're thinking about re-architecting, or they're starting for this first time to figure out how they're going to do data pipelining, what would you encourage them to prioritize in terms of critical and important data sources?
Right. So it really could depend. It really will depend on the company's needs, but there are certain similarities across the board that you'd always want to get, which is, let's say, security data. Any type of security products that you have within your environment, you're going to want to collect that, whether that's network security, endpoint security, or cloud security logs that you may have.
Okay.
There's also going to be any type of what we call the crown jewels, the vital data to your company. You're going to want to monitor any access to that, as well as any access in general, any SSOs, which are super important and can be a first point of contact with an attacker. You're going to want to monitor that, any type of audit data to Windows, cloud products, any service that you may have.
Got it.
Those are also can be critical.
Okay, so it's about endpoint data where the execution is happening, network data for communication. Cloud has obviously become critical to most businesses.
Sure.
And then I think you also mentioned identity data being a really key source. And then last, access data, data pertaining to what specifically is valuable to the company and how that data is being accessed.
Right.
Great summary, great place to start.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So let's talk about, we've talked a little bit about the data that we're collecting and whatnot. Let's talk about how do we collect it? All this data is coming into XIM today.
Mm-hmm.
How do we facilitate, or what's the process you go about in collecting that data?
Right. So we have actually quite a few different ways. We have our integrations, which are, again, thanks to our great content team, they're constantly pushing out new integrations for a variety of SaaS products that are collections over API.
So this is like direct connection to API pulling the data.
That's right.
And XIM facilitates that?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. We also have our XDR collector, which is different than our XDR agent, which is also an agent. It's basically called a log shipper, and it can take logs from any endpoint and pass them back to us.
Regardless of whether that's a managed or protected endpoint?
Yeah,
Okay.
because there are times where you'd want to collect, let's say, services that are running on an endpoint, let's say, that are logging to a local file, let's say. So you'd want to collect those logs separate from the actual management of the endpoint itself. So this is something running specifically on it.
Okay. We talked about FileBeat. Is that one of the examples of what the
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so lots of different formats that we collect.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So besides for that, we also have there's an XDR collector for Windows as well, which is one of the nice things is that when we collect that data, we actually have a few different ways that we can collect Windows data. Our XDR agent, our XDR collector, and a broker that we'll speak about shortly. And one of the great things that we've done with XIM is that we've normalized all those different ingestion methods so that when the data comes in from your Windows machines, wherever they are, however you're collecting them, you're still going to be able to search for the data using those same columns that you expect to see across the board.
Got it. So XIM takes care of that normalization for you.
That's right.
Okay. Good. You alluded to something that we talked about that you were excited about. The broker VM is a part of what we deliver as Cortex XDR, and it's a big differentiator for you. You talked about what it was like working in an MSSP before and building a custom ingestion. Can you talk about what the broker VM offers and how it changes that for you?
Sure. In my work as in an MSSP, one of the challenging factors there was that just in order to be able to collect the data, we had to have access to the customer's environment. And anytime there was an issue, we again needed access to the customer's environment. And in addition to that, we also needed to know how to run the Linux command line very well. We needed expertise in their particular agent that they were using. There was a lot of expertise and a lot of difficulty, just to get access to a customer's environment is not so simple whenever there's a problem.
Right.
But we had no other choice.
So this is really about like ingesting important data to the business, maybe from a custom application or a custom service within the business, correct?
Yeah. And it was quite difficult over there So one of the great things about the broker is that you don't need any of that. You put up the broker in the customer's environment, and your access and your management is entirely happening in XIM. You don't need to go back to the customer's environment anytime there's an issue. You don't need to go back to the customer's environment if you want to collect different data even.
Right.
It's all happening on the side of the management panel in XIM. And you can collect all different types of data using the broker. So we have all these different applets over there. So if you want syslog, net flows, you want to collect a CSV file, you want to collect any type of local file that you might want to tail.
Right.
All of that happens directly through the broker, and you never need to go back into the customer's environment. You can do it straight from the management panel.
Got it. XIM really helps facilitate the collection of data regardless of where it's from. Sounds like broker VM really makes the collection of customer-specific data from custom applications much, much easier. That's great. So we've talked a lot about the process of ingestion, what we collect at Palo Alto Networks. But you alluded to something else that's important to your job, not just the ingestion, but I think you said the operational assurance. Can you talk about that? It's about monitoring the health of those data sources?
Yeah. That's really important because you never know when a data source might drop for whatever reason. And you need to know about that as fast as possible. That's super important because as you mentioned earlier, the entire SOC is waiting for that log.
Right.
So operational assurance is really important. Making sure that data is coming in within a reasonable amount of time is super important.
Okay.
So the way we do that is, well, first of all, we have an out-of-the-box table that basically holds what we call data freshness. It logs the 50th percentile and 90th percentile ingestion time of any given log, which is really helpful in determining whether your flow of data is starting to lag behind.
Gotcha.
or whether you're there, it's dropped altogether. It
Okay.
collects it within every 5 minutes.
Right.
In addition to that, we've recently gotten this super cool feature that's where we can directly send all of our alerts into Slack. And I don't know about you, but when when I'm trying to be on top of things, email is not always the best way for me because I kind of pay attention to it, but not 100%. But in Slack, the second I get that ping, I know that I've gotten an alert about a possible ingestion issue, and I can get straight to it, which really makes our mean time to response great.
I can't stress the importance enough about the health of that data, the flow of that data, because everything comes downstream. If any of those data sources drop off or for some reason become stale, you're missing out on potential critical early detection signs.
That's right.
So really, really powerful. And it sounds like XIM facilitates the monitoring of that health for you. You're just building reports, and then you're able to get alerts directly through Slack, which is your preferred mechanism.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Well, Isaac, great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing all the information about what you do. It's critical to keeping Palo Alto Networks safe. Data is the foundation of everything we do, from threat detection and response and analytics and AI. So a critical role to Palo Alto Networks, and we're very, very thankful to have you. And thank you for joining us for another session on This Is How We Do It, where we've taken a look at how data plays a critical role in keeping Palo Alto Networks safe. We hope you'll join us next time, where we look at downstream from that, how data is critical to the process of artificial intelligence and analytics-based detections. Thank you again for joining us.